Had a chance yesterday to sit down with Tim Smith. He's the founder of Ogden's own distillery. These are the guys that make Underground, Five Wives Vodka, Madame Pattirini gin, and get his full story of why he came to Ogden, why he loves it, and why he chose this as a place to build his business. Here it is.
Was born in Garland, Texas, but spent most of my childhood up until 17 living out in West Texas in a little outside of a little town called Crane. And my grandfather was a Pentecostal minister, so I grew up in hellfire and brimstone. I signed up in the Air Force in the delayed enlistment program when I was 16 to become an armament systems specialist on F-16s, and Hale Air Force Base was my first duty station. So I showed up here in December of '89, and I've pretty much been here ever since. I've traveled a lot and gone temporary duty with the Air Force, over to Desert Shield, Desert Storm with the 388 Fighter Squadron, the 421st Black Widows. I entered the zoology program at Weber State University to just get a bachelor's degree so I could qualify to go back in. During my active duty stay here, as well as going to school here, I've definitely fell in love with the area, learned how to ski, and fished and hiked and biked, and just fell in love with this place because, well, if you've ever been to West Texas and just do a geography comparison, out where I lived, it smells like H2S gas, and here just these beautiful mountains and streams and lakes. I could never quite agree with people that made fun of the local culture and how it was so hard to get a drink, or it was just so weird, the people are this or the people are that. This place was just beautiful, and I definitely grew attached to it. But my plan was, upon graduating from Weber State, that I was going to go back into the Air Force to get my commission. But plans had changed. In my graduation photo, I'm holding a 2-week-old little girl, and it wasn't really hard for me to stay. Honestly, I wanted to be here for her, so she had a dad, and I fell in love with Ogden. Just walking up and down 25th Street, there was just something about I'm at home. I felt like I loved the story of the Junction City. I had heard of course I'd read about the Transcontinental Railroad, but I didn't realize that it was Ogden. But it definitely had a magnetism to it that, just walking up and down that street. The idea of starting a distillery in Utah and making and selling absinthe was the original idea. The neat thing about Utah being a control state is you can literally go down to the headquarters and look at what's selling, off of the shelves in Utah, and it was literally just a stroke of luck that Jägermeister and absinthe were on the same page, and I was a fan of Jägermeister, Ouzo, Sambuca, and Rocky, a lot of those anise style or beverages, and I realized that I couldn't make a living selling absinthe, but if I went after a brand like Jägermeister and could make something that was possibly better but local, that would be my start. And so it just, underground has so many different meanings, as far as the underground tunnels in Ogden, the underground drinking scene, the culture in Utah. The symbolism has some railroad symbology to it, as well as even astrological symbols. It took years to literally go from I'm going to open a distillery, selling absinthe to actually underground being what it is now. I think the progression from having an absinthe that was ready to sell in 2002 to actually underground where it is now with the logo was literally 4 years. I think I was ready in about 2006, and that's when I actually started Ogden's own distillery.
Do you have any idea how many recipe variations you went through?
Honestly, I don't even know. Just over and over and over. I think one time I had a discussion about an aha moment. There really never was one. It was just this is what I want to do, and I just kept just chipping away at it. Back then, you couldn't Google and find all sorts of things about making alcohol, as far as industrial production of alcohol. There just wasn't a lot of information out there. Shark Tank didn't exist. I had no idea how to raise the money, really how much money it would take. I didn't have a full business plan. It was literally, I just spent so many years working on this thing and did get it to the point to where it was a scalable product. But I didn't have any money. I've always been sort of a blue-collar worker and with just a dream. Entertained a lot of banks and came really close with Weber State Credit Union on getting a little loan, but a lot of closed doors, a lot of people laughing at me, a lot of people saying you don't have deep enough pockets to do that. A big break for me was I met Brad Nesbitt, but they had a production facility on 20th and Lincoln where they built a little brewery up on the second floor of this old building. I eventually ended up just buying the equipment on a signature contract and then found a brewery back east that wanted the equipment. I disassembled the whole brewery myself, loaded up 3 big flatbed trailers with all of that equipment, and just upon that little contract sale, got a little bit of seed money in my pocket to at least move forward with finding a place that I could rent. In Utah, luckily in my trips down there, I would just sit in their lobby and go through these sales sheets and just look at how much liquor was selling, how much vodka was selling, just looking at everything. I got to meet the director of the alcoholic beverage control, Tom Stunek, and told him what my intentions were, and he had basically told me that, look, if you're manufacturing here in the state, as long as it doesn't taste like shit, you can get it to the shelf. And at that time, there was not a distillery in the state, and there really wasn't even a distillery license. So that seemed like a big uphill battle because there wasn't literally a license to award. But at the same time, unbeknownst to me, Dave Perkins was working to launch High West. He had a very intelligent guy, chemical engineer with a pocket full of money, and he blazed the path and literally was distillery #1 in Utah, and I came behind him with #2. I think we're closing in on 20.
Well, so this is 2009,
Yeah,
right?
for the launch.
So
yes.
between 2009 and 2022, tenfold increase.
Yeah.
I mean, not the 20. I suppose other states maybe have hundreds.
Insane. When we launched in 2009, I think it was somewhere in the 60s. We were maybe something like number 66, 67, as far as micro distilleries in the United States. That number's closing in on 2,000 now. We can't pass up the fact of I had a little bit of seed money. I was trying to move forward with a location. The unfortunate thing about the distillery business when it comes to the federal license is that you have to have a building with a lease or own the building and have the equipment ready to go before you can actually apply and be awarded your federal license. I was still way short. And of course, banks had already told me no, but I was working at Sun Valley Mortgage doing loans with Dennis Porter, and he told me, you need to go talk to Steve Conlon. I think he might be interested in what you're doing. And so I went and met Steve and brought him some samples of Underground, had my little logo, and had a couple of different very basic stock bottle ideas, and just told him where I was at. And I had a few different business plans. There was a multi-million-dollar business plan that had just this great grain to glass concept and a big building, and just a very involved. But then I had a shoestring plan that was less than $100,000 to just finish everything up and get to market. And he said he might know some people, and so from that first meeting, we met and talked a few more times, and then I met Mike Glassman, Stu Smith, Mitch McKinley, Dean Dandino, Mike Coutreau, and those guys came together and liked the idea, and we worked out a little contract. And the fun thing about bringing in this group of guys is I felt like I had a lot of individual business owners from different walks of life, from a judge to an attorney, Kelly Carden, I missed him, a psychiatrist, Steve being a photographer, as well as being in the mortgage business, and just a great stack of talents. I didn't necessarily know how to make a contract, and although I wasn't raising that much money, bringing this group together, I just gained a wealth of knowledge, and in hindsight, as difficult as it has been, having a group of alphas in the room, we basically set the company up to where I did not have veto power. I wanted everybody, no matter your level of ownership, to have a vote, and so it literally I think it has helped in the fact of helping me grow as a person, learning how to communicate, and be able to get all of those heads together at once, and then create a product. And that was the original group of guys that invested in the company, and I got those guys to write me a check in April of 2009, or they all came to the table and wrote checks in April of 2009, and we were selling in July.
Oh, what? So the federal permit happened pretty quick.
Yeah, I had actually, in just using that seed money and having them coming to the table, knowing that I could buy inventory and whatnot, I got the federal permit in place before I even took money from them. Their money came in. The first wad of cash that came out of Kelly Carden's desk drawer was, I saved write checks, but Kelly actually just threw me a little wad of money. I used that to go pay the $3,500 for the Utah license, because I was basically, just running really thin. And we just went for it.
But at some point you decide, let's branch and let's make some more stuff. So
Yeah, we Underground launched in the summer of 2009. We won a double gold at the World Spirits competition in San Francisco the spring of 2010, which really gave us a bit of validity, and we were moving forward in Utah. But once you get the stores stocked, the shelves stocked, and you're out there just kind of pushing the brands, going from bar to bar, trying to get them to bring it on, the reality starts to set in that, okay, this is going. Now, are there other things we can make? And I had, told the group that, once we're in the business, there's literally limitless products that we can make. So vodka was just the next, was definitely the next almost obvious choice. We're lots of names were thrown out there, but settling upon Five Wives Vodka, it came from literally talking about some Utah stories. The name actually came from a friend of Steve's who pitched that at us, And it was funny because it matched up to a story that we were looking at about the Bartleson Bidwell party of like 66 men and 5 women making the long wagon train and wintering in Ogden, and some of them split up and went on the Oregon Trail and some went south into California. But it was kind of fun to just grab a little bit of history and a play on the name Five Wives. It just sounded fantastic.
Right. Although that's funny because I had always assumed when we were talking about, when you said 5 wives, you were talking about 5 wives of one man, but you were actually got it from a story that was 66 men and 5 wives.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually exactly the opposite.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. I think a lot of people think that we're making fun of polygamy, but I think it's more of just possibly a little bit of respect. There's a little bit of fun in it, but really that story was the exact opposite. And the label started out with my wife, 2 sisters, and a couple of friends in wedding dresses, and that was going to be the Five Wives label. And Steve shows up with this little black and white photo of these girls holding kittens, pulling up their dresses and with these little kittens. I was absolutely opposed to it for a couple of months. It was just like I had no interest in it because I thought it was, I literally thought it was going to be controversial. But I think Steve knew a little bit more about the benefits of controversy, and we ended up going with that label. And it wasn't until we had our little issue with the state of Idaho banning us for sale that we even found out who the girls on the label were. They turned out to be this vaudeville troupe called the Barrison Sisters. They were a little song and dance act where they would tell dirty jokes and sing and show their ankles, and their curtain call was asking the crowd if they would like to see their kittens, which and they had these little kittens sewn into their bustles, and they would raise up their dress, and that was their shtick at the time.
I remember the Free the Wives campaign.
Yeah.
Really, it was all good fun, I think, but really helped you guys, right? Move up a level.
It was huge. We were selling underground. At the time in Utah. I had managed to get it up into Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and Washington. We took Five Wives up to Idaho for a listing meeting, and they just said no. Steve poked at the bear. Steve got the purchasing agent on the phone. He's like, "Why aren't you going to bring this in? You're stopping interstate commerce. This is a brand. We got people that want to buy it. You will bring this in." And basically got the purchasing director flustered, and he sent us a written letter, on state of Idaho letterhead, basically saying that our product was offensive to a large majority of the population, was pandering to children, and was just a middle shelf vodka that nobody cares about anyway. And Steve ran with it.
Well, I remember I'm driving along one day and listening to NPR, and I thought, damn, if that doesn't sound like Steve Conlon's voice. Steve's been to my house 25 times.
Yeah.
That sounds like Steve's voice that they're reviewing NPR. And it was about that, the controversy there of the Free the Wives campaign.
Yeah, we definitely, at that time, if we were selling Furbies or, just some product that anybody could get, we would have just blown up. But unfortunately, the liquor being such a controlled device or controlled product and needing to license it in each state and then set up a distribution relationship, that a lot of the sizzle had kind of gone away by the time, after a little bit of time. But during that time, I think it was really where Utah embraced our brands, because it wasn't Utah being embarrassing, to the national public. It was Idaho. And, because we were already selling Five Wives in Utah, and it was fantastic for us. We literally more than doubled in sales that year, and it was a great shot in the arm for underground as well, just because it put the spotlight on the distillery. Steve started the Free the Five Wives campaign, and that attracted Jonathan Turley, who was a famous attorney at the time who took our case as a free speech case, First Amendment case, and sent a letter to the state of Idaho Liquor Division, and it was literally upon them receiving the letter, they overturned their decision and said that they would bring in Five Wives as a special order. I think it was a bit unfortunate for us because he was going to go on Bloomberg that night to talk about it, but it was just such a quick, over and done thing that it didn't go even bigger. But just during that little time frame of Free the Five Wives, we got into over 300 newspapers in print and sold a lot of t-shirts in Utah as well as around the world. I think as far as South America and Russia, people were buying our little Free the Five Wives t-shirts. So it was great for the company, for sure.
Yeah.
Porter Rockwell was known as the Avenging Angel or the Destroying Angel. He was literally one of the first members baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by Joseph Smith. Well, the branding for this product was just, it seemed like it had so many just limitless possibilities. Fireball with their little fire and their little demon on there. To me, just in reading Utah history and just not believe, it was just hard for me to believe that Porter Rockwell was not as way more famous than Wyatt Earp or Doc Holliday or Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, because this guy was just larger than life, having been told the Samson story by Joseph Smith and literally believing that he was invincible, just running into, the guy would run straight into people with guns drawn and escape without a scratch. Yeah, Madame Pattirini was literally in the works at the same time as Underground. I love the idea of working with botanicals and just going really full flavored on a gin. We had kind of started moving forward with the idea of a gin and maybe naming it Mountain Meadows, and it was quite a macabre story, and I was literally losing sleep at night when I believe it was Pat Bagley sent Steve an email with this picture of Madame Pattirini, and the story of Madame Pattirini was this great Italian opera show, but it turns out it was a very convincing man in drag, and his name was Brigham Morris Young, and he was Brigham's 35th child, and loved that idea of just another example of the Mormons not being as backward and a lot more wild than most people would believe them to be. The Madame Pattirini took the best compound gin from North America, or from the Americas, at the London World Spirits Competition in 2019. It's a fantastic, very much more botanical gin. Citrus forward, where the usual suspects of like coriander, cardamom, and juniper take a back seat to like Underground. The symbol is literally like people coming together and achieving a different level of just a connection.
Yeah.
And that's 3 or 4 chords and just hammering out that Johnny Cash, but singing stuff from the heart and just just throwing 100% yourself into it and connecting with people. That's just powerful. We started making canned cocktails actually back in 2019, but we've only been canning them for about a year. Getting them to the shelf, to the Utah DABS now, has been a little bit of a challenge just because of their system is controlled by computers, and they're very lean, and they only want to have very specific products and let the computer system tell them what they want. So it's been a little bit difficult to get these fantastic canned cocktails out to the market. But everything that we're making, I'm literally focusing on simply sweetening them with table sugar, and using extracts and natural flavorings wherever we can. So if you've tried something like, I don't even want to name other brands, but a Moscow Mule, most of the things on the market just use flavorings. It sort of tastes like a Moscow Mule, and it's good, and it's 10% alcohol, but try ours. You crack the top on it, and that's Chinese and Indian ginger that's literally bringing a tear to your eye. The Madame Pattirini gin and tonic, we brought in quinine and made our own mixer. Our porter's whiskey and cola, we just worked on just all sorts of different combinations of herbs and spices to make a whiskey and cola, and getting the sweet level just perfect. We're just right out of the can or over ice. Just tastes like whiskey and cola. Our porter's peach tea, we use porter's peach and a black pico extract that I tried no less than 10 different extracts of tea coming to this one, and just remember the moment of cracking that open and just having that flashback of opening up the sun tea jar on the back porch in that West Texas sun, and just brings back a flood of memories.
And have you decided on a name for the one that you were making in there that was Lushing?
That one I can't talk about yet.
Oh, come on. All right, so you can't give it a name. All right, so there's top secret recipes in the works.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, and so if somebody wants to find Ogden's Own, Underground, Five Wives Vodka, Madame Pattirini Gin, Porter's Fire, all those products, how do they find you?
Well, they can definitely find us in any Utah liquor store. But you can go online at hightimewine.com and find us there, or West Coast Craft Spirits, and have them shipped directly to your home if you don't live in a controlled state like Utah.
And do you guys have a website?
Yes, ogdenzone.com, or any of the brands. Just by Googling any of the brands, they each have their own website. Five Wives Vodka, Porter's Whiskeys, Underground, Madame Pattirini.
Awesome.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happened.